If I could describe the Get My Life tour in one word, it would be vulnerability. Showing up for yourself is so important. Welcome to the Get My Life tour. I'm your host, Lydia T. Blanco. Hey y'all, and welcome to the Get My Life tour. It is me, your host, Lydia T. Blanco, and as always, I am ecstatic that you decided to show up for yourself and take center stage in your life. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome to the Get My Life tour. It means the world to me that you decided to commit to yourself. Thank you for tuning in. If you are tuning in for the umpteenth time, oh my gosh, your support is so appreciated. I enjoy being on tour with who? You. Look, I could not be more excited, elated, any other E word that's, will reference enthusiasm for today's conversation, because I'm speaking to a woman of great caliber and esteem. And I'm so excited about her because she's also Garifuna, and she is just doing incredible work. We connected some time ago on Instagram, and the fact that she's here on the Get My Life tour today means so much to me. Her name is Nory Pouncil, and she is a self-awareness coach and founder of NoryPouncil.com. She is all things get your life, right? And I know that's not her tagline, but when we have this conversation, you will understand why I said that, because it is one thing to know who you are. It's another thing to know who you are and live your best life and pursue your dreams and do it fearlessly. So without further ado, help me welcome Nory Pouncil to the Get My Life tour. Nory, welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me. What an intro.
Look, you are worth all that and more. I was like, let me keep it short so she can, work her magic herself. But I'm so hyped for this conversation.
Come on. I'm so excited to be here with you, Lydia, and so grateful that you've opened the doors of your podcast home to me. I know how special this relationship is between you and your listeners. So I'm just really grateful that you've given me an opportunity to come in and join the party and talk a little bit about how we can get our lives.
Yes, you are more than welcome. There is always a room for you here at the Get My Life tour, okay? It is incredible to take center stage every week, and I almost wait with the same anticipation as those who tune in. And the work that you're doing around self-awareness and helping people live out their dreams, it is incredible, Nory. I took your test, your quiz. We're going to get there later too. But I took that quiz. Let me tell you something. I am officially back on the Get My Life tour. No, I was already on it, but now it's like, oh my gosh, let me get my life for real this time. Okay, so before we talk about the quiz, and I get derailed because I'm so excited about you being here on tour with me. In your own words, tell us who Nory Pouncil is.
Who is Nory Pouncil? Nory Pouncil is someone that it's really passionate about helping people manifest the life of their dreams. Like every morning I get out of bed, I strive to build genuine relationships with people so that they can be their most authentic selves in the most unapologetic way possible. It's something that fuels me and drives me. I've seen what we are capable of when we are being ourselves, when we're not afraid of how people would see us and judge us and what they will say about us. And it is such a beautiful gift to be able to see someone own themselves in that way. And that's really what I'm all about. And everything I do is with that as center stage. It's with the ability to help whoever I encounter in any moment I encounter. When they walk away from me, I want them to feel seen, heard, and understood when they leave my presence. And I hope that they take that with them and share with the world.
That is absolutely beautiful. And it sounds like there was some grandiose process that one would have to go through in order to get there to be able to help others do that work, right? You just don't wake up one day. I mean, unless, the Most High touches you and you just are on assignment the next day, right? But one would think like, oh my gosh, what is it that you've been through in order to help other people get through on their journeys? I that's the story I want to learn more about. And I've been on your site. I follow you closely, and your story, Nory, is so touching. It is so moving. When I look at what you shared, right? Because I know that's not the full story. It makes me grateful that you have been called to do this work. But can you share more of your house through story with us and what led you to doing the work that you're doing?
Absolutely, Lydia. Thank you so much. You're so kind. I'm out here like blushing and gushing. You hear me? My story, before I get into my story, I want to answer something that you asked around. So people may be thinking that they have to go through this grandiose transformation to be able to help other people. And the reality is that they don't. Every single day we're experiencing a transformation, and it's all about us being available to that transformation. And when we are available to the transformation that we are that's being presented to us on a daily basis, then that journey alone helps other people. People seeing us experiencing life and the challenges of life without giving up on ourselves and continuing to show up, choosing to show up, it's what helps other people. And that's what I've been able to do. So a little bit about my story. As Lydia mentioned, I'm a Garifuna from Honduras. And I've been living in the States for over 20 years now, but I'm really connected back home. And I've had challenges with my physical health for about 10, I would say over 10 years. And that's kind of how I entered the wellness space. It was through physical health. So it was through wanting to be skinnier so I can fit in my skinny jeans, get my abs and get a big booty. She's still working on it. And that was my number one focus. And all of that was going on. And then suddenly in 2016, my favorite uncle, he was murdered in Honduras. And this was the experience that really put me in a place of questioning how I was living my life, questioning if I was doing the thing that made me happy, what even made me happy, what brought me joy. The death of my uncle really shook me in my core because he was someone that I always saw as invincible, that I always saw as powerful, as strong, as being a care for me, a sense of security. It came from this person. And when he was killed, there was so much that I had to deal with. Like I had to face the reality that he wasn't here anymore. But then I also had to face the reality that he wasn't as powerful as I made it out to be in my head, right? Because of the way his life was taken. And I really believe that it was that experience that began to take things to the next level for me. Because after my uncle was murdered in Honduras, I went through this period of depression. It was like 8 months. And I look back at that time right now, and it was the best thing that could have happened to me. Because during those 8 months, for the first time, I looked at myself and I asked myself questions that I thought I knew the answer to. I assumed I knew the answer to. Questions like, what makes me happy? Questions like, what brings me joy? Questions like, what fills my spirit? questions like, who am I when I'm not all these titles, right? When I'm not someone's daughter, someone's wife, someone's friend, someone's sorority sister? What is left of Nory when she's not this identity she's created over the years? And for the first time, I realized I had no idea who she was. I had no idea what she really cared about. I had no idea how she was, what my dream life was. Like, I didn't even have a dream life. Like, I was living at that moment the life of my dreams. I had my husband. I had a director job in DC. I had this gorgeous apartment. Like, I had checked all the boxes, girl. And I'm like, I'm supposed to be living it right now. And it didn't feel like it. And I didn't count with getting to the top and not liking it there.
Oh.
So that was the moment for me to really step back, right? And people call this hitting rock bottom, but in reality, it was an opportunity to revise my foundation.
Nory, you're not going to drop the mic this early into the show. You're not. That's not what you're going to do. You know how this works. You're also a podcaster. Stop it. It's not fair.
I'm just answering your question, girl.
Don't answer my questions. This is not how this works. That is so rich. That is so rich. Oh my goodness. I have to marinate on that. I mean, you also said something before that I wrote down. You said you have to be available to the transformation.
Yeah.
That to me is so in alignment with what you're saying now. If you weren't available, how would you be able to have that kind of perspective?
Right.
That is mind-blowing to me. So many of us, are in pursuit of having that mindset, but aren't open to the daily transformations that you're speaking of. Wow. Okay, keep going. I just had to insert myself because you blew my mind. You dropped the mic and, you're just answering questions out here so freely that are too perfect. I can't do this.
They're honest, Lydia. These are the honest answers. I mean, the version of myself that was going through that experience, this weren't her answers. Like, I'm a big journaler, so I don't know if that's a term, but I journal a lot, and I go back and I look at the journal entries that I wrote down, and I was just yearning and calling out for guidance, calling out for hope, calling out for myself. I was calling out for home, and I didn't know how to get there. And it was so difficult because I felt like I should know, and I felt like I shouldn't have to ask for directions. And it was really difficult for me as a person in my marriage. We were going through a lot of challenges, my husband and I, and it just put me in a position to face myself with myself and realize there was a lot I didn't like. And that was very challenging, naturally. Like many of us, it's difficult to look at the mirror and be like, I don't like this, I don't like that. And all while accepting that we're the reason why we're there, right? That's how we got there. We got ourselves there. So taking responsibility is equally difficult and challenging because we want to be saved. So through my journey, after my uncle was killed, I got depressed for about 8 months. And during that time, I spent time with my foundation, and there were so many cracks. People talk about pouring from a cup to others, but we don't look to see if the cup is cracked, right? That's something that I learned from one of the guests on my podcast, and she talked about but have you checked to see if your cup is not cracked before you pour into it? And I think for me, that's what that process was. It was going down there and looking at my foundation and seeing what was happening and looking at this house I had built on top of it crumble before my eyes because the foundation just was so shaky. And it was a difficult period of time. But during that period of time, I learned that what I was yearning for, the attention I was yearning for, the compassion I was yearning for, the love I was yearning for, the grace I was yearning for, it had to come from me. I was yearning for myself. I was calling out for myself, right? And that was a very interesting period of time because the idea that you are calling out for you can sound so foreign, right? But if we think about it, it's not, because we're constantly doing things for other people. Like, you just could do a quick search down your timeline and you'll see someone saying, I do this for my kids, or I do this for my mom, or I do this for the culture, or whatever. And it rarely is, I do this because it's what serves me. I do this because this is what I've been called to do, and I know it in my heart. Or I do this because this is what pours into my spirit, even if someone else doesn't like it, right? And during that process, I learned that. So I ended up going to therapy and working with the therapist. There were some things I learned, like the fact that I wasn't crazy, which was pretty cool. And then I wanted more from my therapist, but the therapist that I was working with wasn't necessarily in a space to give me the things I was yearning for. And I was like, you know what, Nory, now you have some information. Let's figure this out. Like, you smart, you got a master's, you got bachelor's. Like, come on, Queen, we could do this. And I did. And I went in this journey to figure out what brought me joy, what filled my spirit, what made me happy, and what ignited my soul. And then here we are.
I love that you were calling out for yourself. There's an affirmation that my line sister shared with me, and it goes, what I desire desires me.
Come on now.
And, you know, I took that and I literally put it in my chest pocket. I was like, I'm carrying that with me wherever I go. And oftentimes I realize, like, that is me. I am what I desire. It sounds foreign, like you said, but it is often how we need to position ourselves. We put ourselves on the back burner so much. We disregard ourselves, and then we act as if we don't need us, right? I often tell people, you need you. And that isn't to, discredit, the divinity of the Most High in our relationships with whomever we call out to. But it is so true that we must desire ourselves. And that goes, to your work in helping people live their dreams. I don't know how we go through our life denying ourselves and say that we're happy or that we want to be happy. I'm like, how does that work? Right. But you're doing the work to help people get there. And it's powerful work. It is transformative work. And I can imagine at times it gets a little, like, oh, right, real deep, right? The ugly cry comes out. I was taking your quiz, Nory, and I was like, okay, so you're just going to ask me this. Okay, so let me make sure this is not cached in my browser, because I'm telling all of my truths. But it's so important. Let's talk about this quiz, because I'm so anxious to talk about it. And I know there's so much more that we're going to discuss, but I really want to talk about your work in helping people become more self-aware and, the strategies that you're helping people implement, the framework that you put together. Let's chat about that.
Yeah, let's chat. This is so exciting. This is my first time really talking openly about the 4 stages of self-awareness framework that I recently put together, and how it can help us not only achieve goals and, hit the items on the list and check the items of the to-do list, but more importantly, do it with a sense of ease and inner peace, right? And this framework is so powerful. And I'm so excited that I get to share with other people, and that you've taken it and that you found it helpful. And before I get into some questions about it, just to give y'all some context around what this is, through my time looking back at that period of time when I was going through depression, and eventually what led me to the work that I do, for the past 2 years, I've spent time working with women, helping them manifest the life of their dreams, helping them really overcome things like negative self-talk, helping them overcome things like self-doubt, helping them overcome things like not taking action out of fear, right, of how they were going to be seen or failure. So out of that work, I've put together this framework that captures how self-aware we are by looking at how we respond to discomfort. Now, why self-awareness? If you are here making it in these streets, you are self-aware. Everyone is self-aware. Like, we all have a sense of awareness. There's something that we feel when we are around certain people and their energy is off. You know what I mean? Where you kind of like, I don't know what it is about this person, but like, I'm not trying to be around them. Or I don't know what it is about this space, but I'm not trying to be there. Where does that come from? Even that feeling of discomfort when you're in a situation, like, that's your awareness. If you are not aware of that, you wouldn't be taking action, whether it is to go or to not go, right? And I wanted to develop something. And it's funny because this framework was placed in my heart over a year ago. And I sat with it and sat with it and sat with it until God was like, if you don't do this, there's somebody else going to do this, right? Because I do believe that God doesn't wait on us. Like, when it's time to manifest something, if you've been called to do it and you don't do it, it will be done. It will be done whether you do it or not, right? So the more I heard that, I'm like, okay, let's get and put it together. And the purpose of this is to really help you understand what is going on. A lot of us have this moment when we're like, I want to be mentally healthier. I want to have more peace in my life. I want to have less anxiety. I want to feel more at ease, but I don't know how to do that. I'm always overthinking. I'm always overwhelmed. I don't even got time to slow down, because when I am quote unquote relaxing, I'm thinking about all the things I haven't done. But you really want to move beyond that. And I wanted to develop something that helped you understand what was going on based on what I've discovered, which is that self-awareness moves in a cycle. We run through a cycle of 4 stages when we're becoming self-aware. Now, if you have read any major book on business or sales or self-help, you have seen the word self-awareness, because you cannot get anything done unless you have a sense of self-awareness, unless you know what do you do well, what do you struggle with, how do you respond to situations, how do you react to situations. Unless you do any of that, you're not going to get to where you're trying to go. And that's the key that has helped me go from being depressed, being in DC, doing these things that I didn't care about and I didn't love, to now being in Florida, like living in the, like, really my dream apartment, to be honest, and just feeling the happiest and the most at ease I've ever felt in my entire life. Self-awareness has done that. And that's why I developed the framework.
You know, I'm speechless. And I think I'm speechless because there are so many people waiting on you. You really hit the nail on the head when you said that when you are, I'm paraphrasing, when you're called to do something you don't do, it's going to get done anyway. That is one of the worst feelings. When something is being birthed inside of you and you kill it in its infancy and you see it somewhere else, right? I honestly believe that people are waiting to hear from you, and that this framework is going to help reposition people and help them work on their foundations the way that you were able to work on yours, and truly manifest and live their dreams. You know, when I participated in the quiz, let me say it that way, I was met with some interesting questions. I don't want to ruin it for anyone. Oh my gosh. Take the quiz. Okay, plug, take the quiz. And you know how when you read something and it's something that you realize were thoughts of yours already, you're like, oh, wow, this is formed really perfectly because this is actually what I was thinking. That's the experience I had. And that's how I knew I was supposed to take the quiz. And I'm just going to go ahead and give you my my results. Is that okay?
Yes, Queen. Come on. Let's talk.
Okay. So I'm a warrior out here in these streets.
Hey now.
And yesterday I actually had on my little workout shirt that said warrior, and I was like, wow, how fitting. And I was looking at the homework and all of the strategies that I can implement. And I was like, okay, this is truly next level. What I will say, before you take the quiz, be ready to do the work no matter what your results are. What else comes to mind as I reflect on my time, answering the questions honestly, is the amount of work that you did and your team did to generate those responses for people. We think about these major corporations. I won't name any, but I think, can all come or draw the names of these top corporations who put these quizzes together that some of us probably take, however often. And then for phony things like what kind of pizza do you like and what your personality is. But you really put in some thought, some effort, some strategy, the psychology behind the quiz. What was it like putting that together for you? You did the framework, it's here. But what did that do to your spirit as you put together this framework for others?
That is such a great question, Lydia. And putting this framework together, it wasn't hard. That's how I know it's something that was placed in me to help manifest. That's how I know I'm a vessel for it, because it wasn't difficult to do it. I've been working with women, with people really, for going on over a decade now. So I am very aware of the challenges that they are facing. And one of my gifts is looking at patterns in behavior. I can look at a series of behaviors and I can easily call out the pattern and then help you understand where that's rooted from and how you can exit that behavior if you're interested. It's one thing that I'm so gifted at doing. So when I stepped back and I looked at, first of all, when this quiz was first placed in my heart, when this framework was placed in my heart over a year ago, I woke up and I knew it all. I went to sleep, I woke up and I had I had so many pieces already. And it was the craziest thing. When you just wake up and you're like, babe, I told my husband, I'm like, I don't know how I know this, but I know what to do with the framework. I got everything. And even though I didn't put it out, I sat down on my computer and I wrote my instructions down. I wrote everything that was downloaded onto me. And then
it was in your heart.
It was in my heart. And then when I looked at my students, right, because I do a lot of one-on-one work, I have a lot of data on the challenges that my clients are dealing with. You get really deep and personal. Don't come work with me if you're not trying to be about this life, because when you come over here, we gonna make some changes and he's gonna have to come because you want to and you're willing to do the work. And my clients they are ready to do the work. They want to get to the next level. I work with a lot of C-suite folks, a lot of CEOs and founders are in my community. And when they come in, they have a level of I'm trying to get to where I'm trying to get to, and I'm ready to do the work. So I have a lot of data on what their patterns look like. I have a lot of data on what their challenges look like. And when I began to notice these patterns, I was like, oh my God, this is happening here and that's happening there. And this makes sense here and that makes sense there. And I wasn't even looking at my notes when I was doing that. When I was finally ready to sit down and do the framework, I pulled out all the documents I had on this research I had been doing for the past year. And I saw that the things that was downloaded onto me that day, over a year ago, were identical to the patterns I captured when I was looking at the data. Because I had that thing, I just don't want to put something out there and people are going to be like, how you came up with this? And I'm going to be like, God sent it to me. Which is a very valid answer, but I wanted to take time to really look at the data and look at what were the themes and patterns between my clients to determine where was this coming from, right? And it was so spot on. We all experience these 4 stages. I called them Lotus, Survivor, Warrior, and Phoenix. And the lotus stage is the beginning stage. This is the first stage where we are trying to look at our surroundings. And are you familiar with the lotus flower? The lotus flower grows out of murky waters. So everything around the lotus flower looks a mess, but the flower itself is beautiful. And that's us. When life is going, let's call quote unquote crazy, and we're feeling like everything is a mess around us, that doesn't change our beauty. That doesn't change who we are. Just because our circumstances don't look how we want them to be, it doesn't mean that we're not capable of moving beyond that place and that we cannot bloom like a lotus flower. So after we move back at that stage, we really just want understanding. And that's where I was when I was depressed. I just wanted understanding, like, what's happening? How did I get here? How did all of this mess happen? I just need to be, I need to be aware of what's going on. Then we move on to the survivor stage. This stage, you're getting more comfortable with discomfort. You understand that there are some things in that mess that you are responsible for. You begin to accept that you may have done some things there, and you're more open to changing. You're more open to blooming and to opening up. You begin to fight more. You know, you're fighting here. It's really about being that, you're surviving here. You're surviving from that stage. You want to thrive, but you feel like you're surviving. And then you hit the warrior stage. At this stage, you already know that it's going to take work. You already made peace with that part. Now you're trying to figure out, how am I going to get there? Like, what are the tools that I need? What resources do I need? What resources do I need that actually work for me? You may have tried a number of resources already, but you haven't quite gotten the formula just right on what works for you, for where you're trying to be and for the life you want to manifest, which is where you are right now. And then you hit the Phoenix stage. At this stage, it's really about optimizing, receiving, and releasing. Because if you think about the Phoenix, it rises from the ashes, right? So something has to release before it can come back to life. And that's how we are too. Before we could get something new in our lives, we have to be willing to let go of what we already have. And in that process of letting go, you create room for that renewal. And then you enter that lotus stage again, you know? And putting this together was so beautiful, Lydia, because I see myself in every single one of these stages at different points in my life. And this is a framework that, unlike other frameworks, you can take it multiple times. You can take it today, find out you're a warrior, do some work, come back and see if if you've been able to move to the next stage. Right. And the point is not to avoid going through the stages. And it's not to speed up going through the stages. The point is to go through the stage with as much ease as possible, learning the lessons, being fully present, capturing what's there for you. That's the point of this framework. It's not so that you can avoid what's going on. It's so that you can have a clear understanding of what's happening in this moment, and you can decide, how do you want to move forward? It's about putting you in charge of the things that you can control so you can take action consistently. And seeing this framework come to life, it's really one of the most beautiful things I've been allowed to do on this earth, to be honest with you. Like, I have done many things in my life, but this particular thing has been so life-changing for me, because I was in a really dark place. And to go from that place to be in a space where I look outside my window and I have to remind myself that I'm not on vacation, I just feel so overwhelmed with joy. And to know that I feel that joy, and to know where that joy comes from, and to know that joy I have access to that joy every single moment of my life, is something that I want for every single one of us. Every single one of us has access to this. And it doesn't have to be about how much money you have. It doesn't have to be about, the clothes you wear and all these things that we think it is. We have access to peace. We have access to joy. And it's called the inner peace for a reason. But we're so afraid to go inside because of what we're going to find there, that we don't get to enjoy what we experience after we move past that point. And that's what I want for everyone. I want everyone to have an opportunity to know that Yes, going inside feels a little scary because you haven't been there before as much as you would like. And that's okay. You don't have to go at it alone. We can do this. And on the other side, there is something so beautiful waiting for you, and it is worth it.
My goodness. To live life in alignment and to do the work is so worth it.
Yes.
You know, what I hear you saying is that you have to do the work in order to live in abundance. You know, a lot of us, we speak these affirmations. We, are quick to download or subscribe, and we're not willing to go inside. Like you're saying, it is a foreign space for a lot of us. Taking inventory, sitting down and being still and being quiet, getting to know ourselves. That is tough work. I also appreciate you saying that it's important not to rush through any of the phases. So many of us are trying to accelerate our healing, accelerate the opportunity to live our best lives. And, living our best lives is an inside job. This is excellent, Nory. I am so full from this conversation, and it's not even over yet, right?
I know.
I'm so full. I'm so glad to know that you have taken the calling on your life seriously so that others can do the same. And that you are so transparent about where you've been and others can learn from that. Tragedy strikes, and for a lot of people, it puts a halt to what they were called to do. And that's completely understandable, especially if they don't have the tools, the resources, the support. And what you're saying is, or, how you are living, better yet, proves that does not always have to be the case.
We have a choice, Lydia. We certainly have a choice. And to your point earlier about abundance, I don't think it's about wanting to. I don't think I think we have it all messed up. I think we think, oh, are we going to step into a space of abundance? But in reality, the abundance is here. You are already in a space of abundance. The question is, what are you in an abundance of? So if you are the type of person that is constantly doubting yourself, not trusting, you with the things you're being called to do, then you are in an abundance of mistrust, of lack of trust. If you're the type of person that is constantly moving with confidence, that is following what they're that has clear values and lives by those values and moves with courage, then you are living in an abundance of confidence. So we are already in a space of abundance. We are already in a space of consistency. We are already in a space of action. The question is, what does that look like? And is that what you want it to be? And a lot of us, the answer is no. We don't want the abundance that we have right now. We want a different type of abundance. So we think the ask is, can I have more abundance? But the ask is, how do I get into the abundance of what I want? What actions do I need to change? What behaviors do I need to shift? And that is the work. Being you is easy. Being what's not you, that's the difficult part.
Nory, I'm literally trying to not scream in agreement to what it is that you're saying. Number one, I don't want to scream in anyone's ears. I've been practicing containing myself because I'm very enthusiastic. Oh my gosh. Nory, that's a hell of a question. And then the context that you just provided is transformative. I am going to sit with that question. What are you in abundance of? Oh My goodness. I know I'm not the only person who probably just put their head in the palm of their hand. There is so much reevaluation that has to take place on a constant basis, not so that we're tearing ourselves down, but, you know, in some sense, apart so that we can be reconstructed, right? Open heart surgery is necessary, not only on the operating table. Like, there's just so much that we have to do because of how much that we go through, right? How much we persevere through. But when you say, or when you pose that question, what are you in abundance of? That checks something in my spirit. But so many of us think we need more. And you said more of what? Like, oh my, Nory.
It's real, Lydia. And it's a difficult question too, because a lot of us are like, I have the things, right? Like we have our checklist, but who gave you the checklist? And is it your checklist? Right. And we're like, well, we have the to-do list, but maybe we need a stop doing list. And these are the things that I help my clients do, because a lot of us, we are the first generation to have the mental bandwidth to ask these questions.
Say that.
When we think about our parents and our grandparents, they didn't have the space. The way that the world was shaped for them and the way they went at it, they didn't have the room to sit down and have silence for these things. It just wasn't their priority. And for us, it is, right? So because it is for us, it's about really taking time to look inside. And that's work that many of us have never done before. And if we have parents that have done that work, they haven't really known how to communicate that work to us. So we have to give ourselves grace. I think it is about being willing to deconstruct. It is about being willing to look at your foundation regularly to make sure that as you're building on that foundation, you are developing something that's going to be long lasting. And a lot of us are not looking at that foundation until we are forced to look at that foundation, until we hit a point when our body is literally like, this is the last resort. Hitting rock bottom, as we call it, is your body's physical last resort to try to save you. Is the body trying to push you to a plane where you're like, you're so low right now that you can only go up. Are you going to choose to go up? Right? And I think for many of us, this just feels new. And that's why it's so uncomfortable. We use discomfort to describe an array of feelings, but at its core, discomfort just means unfamiliar. It means I'm going down a route that I haven't been before. So I need to take more attention to be here because I don't know what's happening here. And that I don't know can feel a little scary because we are addicted to knowing. But knowing doesn't mean doing. So just because you know something doesn't mean you're going to do it. And a lot of people want to go from knowing to doing. And that's where self-awareness comes in. Because when you know what's keeping you from doing, when you know, you can get to a point when you can move beyond knowing and take action. And that's what spaces like this do. And I'm so grateful for you having me here and creating a space to talk about things like this, because we need to be having a real conversation of what's really important. And this is the time to do it in a season when we are all being called to slow down, whether it's conscious or whether you like it or not. The world has come to a place of stillness, and yet we are running away from that silence and solitude.
Oh my. Well said. Well said. My goodness, addicted to knowing. To go from knowing to doing. And then this, oh my gosh, this ancestral trauma, right? The mental capacity to deal with things. It is so real. My grandmother, Lydia from Honduras, Garifuna woman, literally transitioned and struggled with so many mental health challenges. right? And a lot of that has been passed down. And, I share that freely with people now because it is a very real thing in our community. It's pervasive, right? Just so many different isms for people who are not born in the States, who transition here, and their expectations and the realities that they face, and the things that they may have gone through, in their home country. It is so real. So I take wellness and mental health and all these other things that have to do with us being holistic and whole so seriously. And I really hope that anyone who is tuned in is listening to their spirit, listening to their heart, and is ready and encouraged to take the next step to make sure that they are well. It's not enough to show up every day and then pat yourself on the back for getting things done. If you are not well, I honestly don't think a lot matters, right? You can get things done and then still feel empty. So I really hope that someone tuned in really feels compelled to begin to do their work. And if that starts with this quiz, that is incredible. And I hope that you feel encouraged to start with this quiz. I mean, I was so curious about where I was on the spectrum, right? And this isn't anything, I'm just going to say it in plain English. This is not a corny quiz, right? It's not 5 steps to live your best life and download this ebook. And then now I'm about to be emailing you 20 times to put you in my marketing funnel. This is not what this is. Nory is truly committed to helping people live their dreams. That in itself, to me, is so golden, right? Living your best life sounds so good. And I know this is the Get My Life tour, but to be positioned to live your dreams, when you said that you have to remind yourself that you're not on vacation every day, that just took me to so many different places, Nory. I was like, my goodness, if we could all have that experience, like I want to be reminded, what does that feel like? Oh my gosh, share more. Is this a beachfront? Like,
it's not a beachfront, but we are walking about 2 miles, walking distance from the beach. So I might be going there later today. But
hey, rub it in.
Listen, it's the abundance we all have access to.
Yes.
We have the windows are like floor to ceiling windows, and there's like a balcony in my office. So it's just the space I've always wanted. And when I look outside, I see the city of downtown Fort Lauderdale, and it's like the type of place that you go to and you're like, oh, I'm on vacation. I'm staying in a place that has like views, like. Girl, I watch the sunrise from my office. Like, it's that type of feeling of things that I'm like, this only happens on vacation. Like, when else am I catching the sunrise from my room? Like, when else am I sitting at a balcony with a cup of tea? Like, whose life is this, bruh?
Yours.
The crazy thing about this, Lydia, is like, when I envision my dream life, there are pieces that I put together, but the heart of it is so much better than what I could have imagined, right? And I think for so many of us, we are thinking we have limiting beliefs even when we think about what we can manifest, because we can only imagine something from the context of what has happened in the past. So that keeps us limited to what we can imagine and dream for ourselves. So how beautiful it is that even as we're imagining this, the divine has something much bigger for you, right? That when you arrive there, you're like, I thought what I wanted was popping, but this is nice. You hear me? And it's so beautiful because there are things that I have that I didn't ask for myself, but I have received, right? So I think it's so important for us to be honest about the fact that this is work, and you do the work because it's what you want. You want that peace, and you're not gonna get it without putting in that work. It just doesn't work like that. And I want to be transparent about what it's like to live your dream life and be your authentic self. I want to be honest about a component of that, and it can be lonely. It can be lonely to live the life of your dreams. It can be lonely to live the life that you've wanted for yourself, to be authentic, because you're doing things that other people are not doing to manifest that life, to get to that point. There are people that yesterday had the day off. I chose to work. Like, I'm working today. And I'm not saying that I have to do all these things to keep up this life, but what I'm saying is there are behaviors that you're going to take to do the thing that you want. The other people not only do not want to take, they don't understand. They are questioning why you're moving like that, you know?
Right.
And there's something about that that feels a little lonely, a little alienating, because who else can you talk to about this? And that's why people come and talk to me, because I surround them with people that are also living their dream life. I surround them with people that know what it's like to feel a little lonely. And I surround them with people that know what it's like to work hard. And a lot of us haven't been pushed in that way before. So living your dream life, yes, I have this beautiful place that I love. And I do remind myself that I'm not on vacation, especially when it comes to eating. But at the same time, there is this element of, there are some things other people don't seem to understand, because mentally they're not there yet either. They're still thinking that the thing that they want is the actual thing that they want. They're still thinking that the dream job is the thing that's going to bring them joy. They're still thinking that having more money in your bank account is the thing that's going to bring you more happiness. And that's not always the case. So there's these components about this journey that people are just not talking about. They're not talking about how hard it is to set these boundaries with their family, about how hard it is to say to their friends, yo, I can't talk to you right now because I'm busy working on this project, or not going to certain things. I mean, right now it's easier because, COVID, but like having to make the sacrifices, that's also equally important for this piece of the journey. And that's where your self-awareness come in, because the more you know about yourself, the more informed action you can take. And self-awareness is not just about knowing, right? It's about doing. A lot of us are aware, but we're not taking action with that awareness. We're not being intentional with that awareness. And that's why we're not getting to the place where we want to get, because we're not letting go of the things that we need to let go of before we can receive the things that are there for us to receive. That's the work.
That is the work. Letting go is one of the most difficult things for human beings. I don't know what it is. Setting boundaries. I know you know. Tell us. I heard that deep breath. Come on. I know.
The thing about letting go, Lydia, that makes it so difficult is familiarity. The more familiar you become to something, the more attached you become to it. Attachment, I would say, is like the enemy of self-awareness, of letting go, for sure. Because if you think about this, if you're using a phone, right? And you've been using this phone for a really long time, you really love your phone, blah, blah, blah. And somebody comes offers you the same phone, a different phone that for you is like not better than your phone. The first thing you're going to be like, well, I already know how to use this one. I'm already good with this one. Or I picked this phone because I'm already used to this one. That's how it works with us. We don't want to exert more energy than what we have right now. We want the path of least resistance. That doesn't mean that you're lazy or any of that. It's just how human nature works. Looking at human nature, humans like the path of least resistance. Why? Because in the back days when we used to be in the Serengeti, if you had your energy was a very precious resource. And if you ran out of energy and the lion was coming for you, guess what? You're going to get ate. Okay, you're not making it back to the village. So your body and your brain is designed to process information. So your brain is like, we need to reserve as much energy as possible in case something pops off and we got to go, right? But the brain hasn't realized that you're not in the Serengeti anymore and that it doesn't need to do all of that. So you have to push yourself beyond that. And it feels uncomfortable to do that because it means that you have to force more energy to come out of yourself to do the things you want to do. And that's difficult. So we like what's familiar. We don't want to take a different route to work. We already figure out what route we like and we going down that route. We don't want to talk to different people. That's why we hate breakups, because now we got to deal with somebody else, tell somebody else all our business, try to get to know them and maybe like their family. And it's like, I don't want to do all that. I already dealt with that. I'm past that point. When something feels familiar, we become attached to it. And the more attached we are to it, the harder it is to let it go.
Right.
So that's why so many people don't make it to their dream life, because they are too attached to the familiarity of their current one.
Oh, that's piercing. Oh, that is piercing.
Because you know what it looks like. You know what it is, but you don't know what the other thing is going to look like. So you're afraid of uncertainty. You're afraid of change. You're afraid of not liking that. And that's why you stay where you are. That fear fuels you from taking action, because you think the fear is a sign of paralysis. You think the fear is a sign of don't keep going. But fear is really just a pause. Fear is asking you the question. It's not telling you the answer. Fear is asking you, hey, is it okay to keep going? But when people feel fear, they think fear is saying, don't go. But fear is asking you, is it okay for us to take the next step? And you let fear know, yes, it is.
I like that. That perspective is so liberating, because we are attached to fear, right? But there's this unhealthy relationship that a lot of us have with it.
Queen.
I appreciate that perspective. And that language itself that you use is honestly a resource to me. And I hope it will be to others as we think about, how we operate, how we respond, how we react to not only to discomfort, but to fear.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was watching TV while I was getting my tires changed a couple of weeks ago. And I was like preparing to drive back cross country and had so many things going on. I'm like, I missed a couple of things, including a call with you, full transparency. I was like, dang it, how did this happen? I'm not irresponsible. Right. But I remember looking up, and Katy Perry and Gayle King were having a conversation. And Katy Perry said that a lot of us are looking at 2020, and I'm paraphrasing her, and we're highlighting uncertainty. And she said, but I believe that this is the year of surrender. I was like, I did not know Katy Perry was that deep. Okay. I don't follow her closely. I think she's beautiful. I really don't know any other song than Firework. But when she said that, I was like, you know what? I appreciate an on-time word that was unexpected.
Mm-hmm.
And when I think about what she said, I'm like, wow, this really is a year to surrender. And you said something similar when you mentioned how we have to really respond to this moment, right? But a lot of us are trying to get away from it and do the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
Before we get into our mic drop moment, oh my gosh, you've already dropped the mic a million times. I really want to ask you about how we can respond to discomfort, but also position ourselves to surrender during this time.
Mm-hmm. That's such a wonderful question to ask, Lydia, because so many people want to know that, and to be fully transparent with you, it really comes down to trust. To trusting your values, to trusting yourself with yourself. You can make decisions for yourself. I know a lot of us always feel that we have to check in with other people, but ultimately you can make these decisions on your own. And if you want to know how to respond to discomfort so that when discomfort shows up, you can answer that question instead of allowing it to paralyze you, it really starts with you being honest with yourself about where you are and trusting that that's okay. A lot of us are facing ourselves for the first time and we're angry. We are angry at the space where we are. We are angry at the situations in which we find ourselves. And we are angry at the fact that we feel like we can't change it, right? We don't feel in control. And if there's anything that 2020 has taught me, Along with surrender, which is another word for surrender, is trust. Trust that whatever higher power you believe in got you. Trust that the same source from which the birds come from, the oceans come from, that don't need any guidance, that's also where you come from, and you have access to that. And discomfort is not discomfort is not something to hold you forever. Discomfort just wants to know if it's okay to keep going. And you get in charge and you tell it yes, and you take it to the next place. And it really starts with you in your stage of self-awareness. It's about how aware you are of yourself. And I wish there was something else that I can tell you, a magic pill or something, but it isn't. You got to go inside. You got to see what's happening with you. And you also have to be ready to let go of this life that you have so that you can get the one that you want. And the truth about uncertainty is that when have you ever been certain of anything? The only thing you are certain of is death. And that can be really difficult to grapple with because we want to believe that we're going to wake up tomorrow morning and we're going to do the things on our calendar. But the reality is that you may not. The reality is that today may be your last day in this physical form. And you have to be okay knowing that if that happens, you lived how you wanted to live. Don't wait until you get an actual death sentence, because the sentence begins the moment you take your first breath. That's when the countdown starts. And a lot of us make the mistake of believing we have time. We don't know that. And if you want to move with more ease when discomfort shows up, really begin to see discomfort as a teacher. It's not your enemy. It wants to teach you something. And it wants to teach you the very thing you want to know to get to where you want to go. It's on your side. But if you keep on avoiding it because of how it feels, you're never going to get to where you want to go because you're never going to learn the lesson. The only way to experience discomfort is through discomfort. It's not around it because it continues to pile on over and over again. And that's really how we start. And tools like the 4 stages of awareness framework can help you begin to understand where you are and guide you towards where you want to go. But if you don't do that, you're going to keep going on circles over and over again. And you're going to accumulate more accolades. You're going to accumulate more promotions. You're going to accumulate more of the material things and still feel empty. There are people that have nothing but feel so full inside of them. They have tapped into their sense of wholeness. And then there are people who have everything that we think is everything and feel empty inside. Mm. So you have to choose which one is going to be more important for you. And for me, it's about how I feel inside. Because what I have outside, I'm not taking none of that with me. That doesn't mean anything if I'm dying inside. And you don't have to hit rock bottom to get there. But if you do, don't let that opportunity go to waste. Re-look at your foundation. Right now, look at your foundation. Look at the foundation of your heart. And decide if you want to make some changes. And just know that discomfort just means unfamiliar. And unfamiliar means growth. The only time when we're going to a place that we haven't been before is because we've grown enough to get there. And if you take it from that approach, you're going to make it. We are all going to make it. It's just a matter of how fast we want to get there and how willing we are to do the work to achieve it. It's going to be all right. Everything is going to be all right. It always is.
I've officially gotten my life. My goodness. Nory, I don't know if I've ever been speechless as many times as I've been during this conversation. You know, I can only imagine how much further your clients get after partnering with you and doing this work. That is... You are incredible, Nory. You are. I feel like you just gave us an entire life affirmation to like print out. I'm like, I think I need to transcribe this for people. And of course, you know, there are so many services and resources you provide for people, but that was beautiful. Thank you for answering that question.
Thank you, Lydia. Thank you. And you know what? For everyone listening, I really want you to know that you have opportunities to be more comfortable with discomfort right now. If there is someone that triggers you, if there's something that triggers you, practice going towards that trigger sometimes. I'm not telling you to go and put yourself in a space where you can be physically at harm. But if there is something that triggers you and you want to get better at being in spaces where things are difficult for you, go towards that thing. If there's a family member who you've been having quote unquote, beef with, and you've been wanting to, it's uncomfortable to be around them for you, but you want to make things a little bit different, have a conversation. Be willing to go towards that discomfort. Tap into it, lean into it. You know how people play double dutch and they be like putting a foot in, putting a foot out? Do that. Do that, because discomfort is all these things are muscles. Everything. Confidence is a muscle. Discomfort is a muscle. Inner peace is a muscle. It's all a muscle. You can have this thing. It's not something special that Nory got in a secret box and locked the key away. No, you have this. You have it right now. You just have to exercise this muscle. When you go to the gym for the first day and you're doing, glutes or you're doing legs, the next day you sore because you haven't been there like that. So you go again and again and again, and slowly the soreness wades away, right? You're still doing the work, but it's not as intense. That's how discomfort is. The more you lean on discomfort, the less scary it becomes. And the more you can see it for what it is and not what you're afraid it's going to be. The more we can see it for the reality and not our projection. So you can do this. This is just a skill. It just takes time to develop, and you can totally do it.
You know what? I'm encouraged. And I can only imagine who is tuned in. They have to be. There's no way you've tuned in and you're not encouraged. You're not inspired. You're not compelled or ready to do the work. Nory, we have come to the point where it's time for you to officially drop the mic. I don't know what else you possibly could have up your sleeve, but I know there's something and I'm waiting for it. Okay. Because I'm like, I don't know what this woman is going to say at the end of this show, but I mean, it is about to be fire. Okay. I literally may have to edit in sound effects because this is going to be good.
I can't.
You can.
Before I share my mic drop moment, I would love to ask you if there was anything that was surprising for you about your quiz results, anything that you learned from Lydia while going through that process.
You know what? I'm so glad you asked me that. I love when the tables are turned. Okay, let me tell you something. I feel like I've been in warrior mode. I'm so glad that I'm out of survival mode, honestly, because I have lived so much of my life in survival mode, and I just have been longing to thrive. I've also been in position to fight a lot of my life, but I'm just like, okay, look, I don't want to use the same tactics anymore. I got to switch up my combination, right? And just strengthen my core, not my stomach, but my literal core. And to now be able to identify with your framework as a warrior, I don't see that as a negative thing, right? I think for so long when you've been fighting for a while, you're like, oh my gosh, okay, I don't want to be seen as aggressive and I don't always want to come and shake the table, right? But then there's pride in being a warrior because you realize, wow, I have been doing the work. Okay, I'm in this for the good fight. And this is what I'm working towards. I am someone who is adaptable. I pride myself on being able to be repotted and bloom wherever it is that I'm planted. But that whole discomfort piece, I was like, oh my gosh, I would love to respond to discomfort differently, right? And I'm imagining once, I continue to do the work, how I will be able to respond opposed to react. So now having that language, I'm just like, okay, look, okay, this is what I need to do. And it's exciting. I am often pulled in so many directions, and I'm always talking to people or whatever the case may be. And I'm just like, man, I just want to focus on myself. So after completing the quiz, I realized, okay, look, this is what I need to be honing in on. And this is how I can take a step back for myself even, and then reapproach myself and where I am, because I'm all about doing the work and I just don't like it to sound good. I'm like, okay, I actually want this to make sense. So after completing the quiz, I feel more equipped, honestly, right? I'm like, okay, this is what I can do. And I'm excited to do it. And I'm kind of anticipating a moment of discomfort because I'm excited to see how I'll approach it. I think I see it differently than a challenge, right? Sometimes challenges excite people, but that unfamiliarity is not as exciting. But now there's something in me that is enthusiastic about facing discomfort with a different kind of energy, right? And to see how that shifts my surroundings and my being, and how I continue to show up. So thank you.
Oh, thank you for sharing. That is so beautiful. And thank you for being so vulnerable and transparent around what that process was like for you. Because there is something uncomfortable about facing discomfort. It's something like, oh, do I really want to know? Am I ready to know?
Right?
So I'm grateful for you sharing that. And even the word you use, excitement. If you look up the meaning of excitement as an emotion, is actually synonymous to fear. Excitement and fear have the same. It's the same thing. The difference between excitement with fear is your attitude. When you are excited, you are a little. You're a little afraid because you haven't been willing to go. But when you're afraid, you haven't been there before, and you're now willing to go. So your attitude determines whether you feel excitement or whether you feel fear. And it sounds to me like you're choosing to go towards excitement and you feeling that urge you're willing to keep going. Yes. And that's how I know you're going to get the results that you want.
I'm excited. I really am. I use the word excited often, but I don't use it loosely. Because it's one of the worst feelings to be excited about the wrong stuff. Or not be honest about your excitement. Like, oh yeah, right? Like,
right.
No,
right.
Not having it. But yes, okay.
So it's getting into this mic drop moment, right? This is what I would like to leave the listeners with. Doing the work of looking at your self-awareness and taking action with it and experiencing healing. At times it can feel very dark. I'm gonna be honest with y'all. There are times when, even though I've been doing this work now for going on 3 years, there are still times that it can be very dark, because the more you go and the more work you do, the deeper the layers that you are unpeeling. But at the same time, you begin to get to know yourself. You begin to know your essence. You begin to know the part of you that it's not shaken by circumstances, that it's not shaken by emotions, that remains constant no matter what. And you learn to love that part of yourself. So if you are someone that is currently feeling any sense of helplessness or hopelessness, if you're someone that really wants to have better things in their life happening, I want you to know that you have access to that right now. And it's about you choosing to commit yourself to getting those things. You don't need permission from anyone to do this. You don't need a coach to do this. You can do this but it's about you deciding that you're going to show up for yourself over and over again, no matter what happens. And I want you to know that once you are ready to do this, the help you need will appear. You don't have to know how, but it will show up. And all you have to continue to do is continue to show up. Don't forget that you get to write your story. And it could be whatever story you want. And you can change the rules as much as you want. But it's up to you to make that happen. And if there's something I wish that someone would have told me when I began this journey, is it's okay to make mistakes. I'm not those mistakes. It's okay to be responsible with myself. It's okay to know that I've played a role in situations and still want to be better. It's okay to feel joy and still know that there are things I want to improve. It's okay to surrender and still struggle with receiving. All these things can coexist. And we don't have to look at it as black and white or binary. We can really look at it as there's room for everything at the same time. And it's what we put our attention to that truly matters. And if you focus on the things you can control, if you focus on how you respond to situations, if you focus on how long you choose to feel the way that you feel, your life is going to change and the magic is going to happen. Try it and let me know.
There you have it. I adore you, Nory. I really do. My goodness. I'm not supposed to say much after the mic drop moment, but in true Lydia fashion, I just have to tell you that I appreciate you. You know, let people know how they can stay connected with you, how they can tap you for your services, take the quiz, and just, continue to follow you as you continue to do your work.
Thank you, Lydia. And I adore you too. Thank you so much for having me and allowing me to come in this space and share something that's so intimate. And it has the power to help so many lives. And I'm so grateful for you creating and sharing space with me while doing this. If y'all want to kick it with me, you can hang out with me at norypouncil.com. That's the address for my virtual home. In there, you'll have a link to take the quiz, the 4 stages of awareness quiz, and, take it, be honest with yourself, really be honest. I can't stress that enough. Like, be honest with where you are right now, not how you want to be, not how you think you should be, but how you really are. And let me know about your results. Like, hit me up. I want to talk to you about them. I want to help you understand them and unpack them. On Instagram, you can catch me at Nory Pouncil. And I think that's it. Just holler at me on Instagram. Come to norypouncil.com. And I have a list. It's called Awaken, and I'll invite you to join it. I share love notes on how you can unleash your most authentic self and thrive. So if you're into that, I'm your girl.
Yes. Stay connected. Get your life. Do yourself a favor. If you would love to stay connected with the Get My Life Tour, be sure to do so by connecting with us on social at the Get My Life Tour. Of course, visit thegetmylifetour.com. We have some incredible things going on. Register, sign up for the newsletter, join the Facebook group, the Get My Life Tour Backstage, where we're having a lot of conversations. And if you'd like to stay connected with me, be sure to do so at Lydia T. Blanco on all social accounts. And then visit LydiaTBlanco.com if you want to just stay up with what I'm doing journalistically. I am so grateful that Nory showed up the way that she did. I mean, what more could you ask for? I literally have nothing else to ask. There was so much given to us on this stop of the tour. If you are not full, I don't know what you were doing. Oh my gosh. But I am so grateful for you, Nory. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lydia. Thank you for having me. And I am so excited to be a part of the tour.
Yes. As always, I'm looking forward to the next stop on the Get My Life Tour. And I'm so grateful for your support. Until the next time, it has been real. Peace.